So let's get into it, everybody. Unless you are a Ultra Marvel or DC fan, mostly from the cinematic universes, you might have heard of Saga. Saga is an amazing comic. You can see I'm excited just mentioning it. It's actually my favorite series of all time right now. Saga is not published by Marvel or DC. It's actually by Image Comics, and it's an epic space opera fantasy. I kind of don't want to like describe it just because it sounds very cliche. And if you're just kind of scrolling through it and you're not really looking at the pages, it's like, what the fuck? But once you read it and you give it a chance, it's really good. So I'm not gonna tell you what it's about. Please just like read a couple issues and give it a chance. It is kind of a cult classic. It is something a lot of people really enjoy, and it's for a reason. It's very unique. It's very well written. It's currently ongoing, volume two. It's so good. Um, so I highly recommend checking it out. It's written by Brian K. Vaughan, who also did the writing for Paper Girls, which is getting a TV show adaptation if it's not out already on Hulu. And the art is by Fiona Staples, who is just amazing. She really makes the comic. She really does. And fun fact, this comic has actually won multiple awards. So like that just tells you how legendary it is. So I recommend giving it a chance. This character here, on the side of the screen, her name's Alana, and she's one of the main characters. She's one of my favorite characters. I love her. Yeah, just, let me know if you've read it before, if you like it. I really want to talk about it. I have videos coming out about it. Let me know if you're going to give it a chance or how you feel about it. Yeah, just comment down below. So not only what if Spider-Man left Mary Jane at the altar, but what if the Amazing Spider-Man married Black Cat? This is a what if comic that I not only own, but is one of my favorites. Just because I am a huge Black Cat fan, I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, and this is really something I wanted to put on this list because it is a what if issue from volume 2. It's issues 20 to 21. So if you're the kind of person to like read short comics or kind of read more ideas or headcanons rather than full storylines, this is for you. So the writer is Danny Fingeroth. I hope I pronounced that right. And it's inked by Chris Ivy. Um, and it's really an interesting story. Spider Man's identity is revealed, but I don't want to blow it because it is just 2 issues. I just really wanted to share it. It's an issue that I hold dear to my heart, and I don't know, it's just a really intriguing idea. Like, what if this canon event um, was not canon? What if Spider Man gave up on Mary Jane and married somebody else? Like, that's an interesting idea. So, if you're into that, I highly, 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 highly recommend it. So, this comic title is not only one of my favorite comic series, but it's actually the first one that I ever completed. I remember just being a little kid and just like laying on my bedroom floor, just like this, like reading the comic, and all the issues. I got a bunch of them signed. It's just got a really special place in my heart, so obviously I had to put it on the list. Supergirl, Volume 1. The writer is Peter David and the artist is Ian Churchill, and it's a supernatural DC comic about, well, Supergirl. Um, I don't remember if it's really got her origin story or not, but I know at least hints at it. And I think, Superman's in there once or twice, but it's not really about him. There's some really good scenes with Nightwing. Spoiler, they kiss. And obviously, as you can see, other versions of Supergirl. So I just had to put this on the recommendation list. It's really just about her growing, not only as a person, but as a hero, and us seeing her become the Supergirl that we all know her to be. So if you're interested in it, I highly recommend it. It's really sweet and it's appropriate for all different ages, so definitely go check it out. This next comic is, it's kind of known in the comic community, but not really in people who only, watch, Marvel and DC movies because it's actually published by Aspen Comics, originally Top Cow Productions. Um, so it's not a Marvel or DC series, but it's really creative and it's just beautiful and it's stunning. The story is really intriguing, and it seems slow at first, but it's an entertaining slow. So I had to put this on the list because it's just amazing in my opinion. It's completely created by Michael Lane Turner, unfortunately, who passed away young from cancer. Um, but the genre is dark superhero and his work is amazing, and if you purchase from Aspen Comics, I believe it goes to his family now who owns the company. So it's a very it's a very, how do I say, it's a very creative work, and it's very personal work, so I wanted to put this on the list. It's I don't want to spoil it too much, but if you're like the kind of person that likes Aquaman or things like that, you'll love this story. It's very water based. Um, I would argue that it's better than Aquaman, but that's just me. Let me know what you think in the comics if you've ever read it. So, the Dark Phoenix saga in 1980 is not only one of the most arguably well known comic series ever, but it's the top selling comic, I believe. Don't quote me on that. And one of the most popular X-Men comics and Marvel comic titles ever. So, it's published by Marvel Comics and it's in the Uncanny X-Men title, issues 129 to 138. That's the Dark Phoenix saga. And it's written by Chris Claremont and the art's done by John Brine. It is a bit older because it is 1980, but I think it's really well depicted. It's really creative. It's just magnificent. They definitely put a lot of hard work into producing it. And basically, the Phoenix Force consumes Jean Grey, and she's kind of evil. So I highly recommend checking it out. It is a foundational comic. It's a comic that starts a lot of people off in reading comics and enjoying comics, so it's definitely a classic. Now, I've said this before, but one of my favorite comic book heroes and just comic book characters and of all time is Spider-Man. And the Amazing Spider-Man is actually one of the best in my opinion, especially starting in issue 298 because it's written by David Michelini. I always pronounce his name wrong, but the artist is Todd McFarlane as of 1988. Now, Todd McFarlane has completely shaped the culture of comics. I might actually do my own video on it. Um, but he has completely changed how we see Spider-Man today. He's the creator of spaghetti webbing, which is depicted on this slide. You can see the webbing style that Spider-Man's webs is drawn in. Just a very not only unique version of Spider-Man, but a classic and arguably one of the best out there. So I had to put this on here, especially if you're a Spidey fan, especially if you're watching the Marvel movies. It's definitely something to at least brush up on. So this is something that I'm actually currently reading. Actually, I might have it with me right now. Let me check. It's packed away, but this is the Daredevil Omnibus from 1964 plus. So it's got different comics collected in it. It's a really nice little book. It's published by Marvel Comics, but this is actually Daredevil's first appearance. It's his origin story and other stories as well. Written by Stan Lee. Art by Jack Kirby. So it's the foundation of Daredevil as the character we know him today. And it's got a bunch of different issues in it, so I wanted to recommend it. It's something that turned me onto Daredevil because I wasn't really sure how I felt about him for a long time. I just wasn't really exposed to him, and it's really great to compare. It's really fun as well to compare to the Daredevil TV show that Netflix has put out, and that's currently on Disney Plus, I believe. Um, so this is a highly recommended story, especially if, we all know the legend of Stan Lee, but not all of us have actually read his version of a lot of the comics and the heroes. So if you want to brush up on the history of comics, I highly recommend starting with this one. So as a kid, I was like super into Hellboy. Like my dad got me a bunch of merch for it. I've seen all the movies, just really hyped about the character. So obviously I wanted to put Hellboy Volume 1 on here, Seeds of Destruction. It's published by Dark Horse, so one of my favorite comic book companies, and it's written and drawn by Mike Mignola. I hope I'm pronouncing the name right. I never pronounce the names right. But he's actually a really nice guy. I've met him on occasion before, got things signed from him. It was just a really overall great experience. And he goes to a lot of the smaller venues as well. It's about his love for the comics. It's funny because I remember him telling us a story. I believe it's him that none of his kids are into comics. And so when he saw me, it was kind of interesting because it's usually, middle-aged people going to get their comics signed, but I was getting my very own Hellboy comic signed. So if I'm remembering correctly, that was just a really great experience. And this comic, it has actually inspired the blockbuster films of Hellboy. So if that was how you're introduced to the character, go ahead and check out, more about him. It's really in depth, and it's a great story. I'm not gonna ramble on about it, but it's a great story. I don't think it's for all ages, but it is what inspired me to read a lot of different comics. I was introduced to the movie first, so I want to recommend that and get other people into that story as well. So I highly recommend, checking this title out as well. Comic is actually very interesting to me because it's published by Boom Studios. It's called Berserker. And if you look at the character here on the slide, the main character, doesn't he kind of look like a buff Keanu Reeves? Well, I'm pretty sure that was on purpose because it's actually written by Keanu Reeves. It's his story. He created it and he's co-writing it. And the art is by Ron Garney. And it's basically about an immortal warrior called Berserker. I found it really awesome when I heard that Keanu Reeves came out with a comic book. Honestly, it's really great. I even saw my university selling it in the merch store at one point. I really wanted to buy it, but had to get groceries. Life of a college student. But if that interests you as well, please go ahead and check this out. Currently, there's 12 issues. And let me know how you feel about it. And while you're at it, drop down below in the comments what your favorite Keanu Reeves role or movie is, because I need to know. Next up is She, one of the most underappreciated comic books of all time. I can't believe how under the radar it has been flying as of recently. So She, Way of the Warrior, Volume 1, is a really great comic book about, well, She. I don't want to spoil it, but it is published by Crusade, and it's written and drawn by William Tukey. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. And it's basically about a trained warrior monk. She's really cool. It's a really unique and interesting story. There's different beings, monsters, and it's got great characters. It leads into She versus Tomo, which is another She storyline, and it's really foundational. It's a really great comic, very popular in its time, but so many people don't know about it, probably because there hasn't been any movies about it. And Crusade isn't necessarily a well-known company among people who just aren't, really into comics. So I'm guessing that's just why it's kind of been flying under the radar. Additionally, there's been no additional comics put out under the title, so it's not currently ongoing of my knowledge, so that might be why, but it is still really great. I would put it up there with other really great comics, even Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man. Obviously, I'm not going to compare the two, but that's just how foundational it is, so I highly, highly recommend giving it a chance. It's got beautiful art, beautiful scenery, beautiful characters, and it's just overall a pleasure to read, so definitely try finding an issue or two and giving it a chance. Now, this story I actually really enjoyed while I was reading it. So it's published by Marvel Comics and it's called Spider-Woman. So if you've seen the the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse movie, which just came out, the animated film, the sequel to the Into the Spider-Verse, we meet Jess Drew. She is the black woman who is pregnant and on the bike. She's got the glasses, the whole fit. This is that character, just I'm assuming a different version of her from a different Earth. Really interesting. So she is a mother, but I don't want to spoil any details about it. So consider this a spoiler warning because I'm about to spoil. We find out that she actually got a sperm donor. She's a single parent by choice. It's really cool. She's still a superhero, still flying around, but she's only pregnant for the first couple issues. I think there's only like 19 issues. I'm not sure, but there's not too many. But it's a really interesting story. So it's just about a single mom and hero. It's a superhero genre. It's written by Dennis Hallam and inked by Alvaro Lopez. I hope I pronounced their names right. And it was put out in 2016. So if you want to check it out, meet more spider people, learn about one of the characters or one of the versions that could have inspired our beloved character Jess from the movie, I highly recommend checking this out. This is where you want to be. And if you've already read it, let me know how it is in the comments. Next up, I want to talk about Phoenix Song Echo, which was put out in 2021. Something that I love about Marvel, I think I've mentioned this once or twice maybe, is that they've always been pretty diverse and they've always talked about diversity within their characters, but they've never, they rarely make their characters like their whole superhero identity about the fact that they're diverse. They just exist as they are, and I really appreciate that. And Echo is one of those characters. So Echo is a deaf Native American and Latino woman, and she actually becomes the host of the Phoenix Force. Spoiler alert, one of the most powerful hosts there is. This is published by Marvel Comics, and it's written by Rebecca Roanhorse, and art is by, Luca Marciska. I really hope I'm pronouncing these names right. I don't really know where to go to find them, because like Google Translate isn't always right, but it is what it is. So Echo Maya Lopez is the new host of the Phoenix Force. Is a really interesting story. It's not the character's origin, but we do actually meet Maya Lopez in the recent show. Oh, I forget what it's called, but it's the one with Hawkeye, introducing the character that Haley Steinfeld plays. It's really interesting. I think it's literally called Hawkeye or something like that. I know it's not Arrow. I always get it mixed up with Arrow, so that's probably why I'm confused. But it's a really interesting show. I do believe that they kind of not really ruined the character, but changed her in a way that I didn't really like. So I'm hoping that the new direction they take her in her own TV show coming up called Echo is a great place for her. She's really powerful. I read her story in the Marvel's Voices Indigenous Voices. I really loved it. Really, really powerful character. So I'm really glad she's getting highlighted and that her full potential is explored, or at least some of her potential is explored in this series, Phoenix Song Echo. So if you're interested in it, please, by all means, check it out. Love my girl Maya Lopez. She needs way more representation. So Dazzler 2010 is actually a one-shot put out by Marvel Comics that I read. I read it a while ago. It's written by Jim McCann and it's art by Kalman Andrasovsky. I really hope I'm pronouncing that right. I know I'm not though. But it's on the slide. And the genre is superhero, and it's about, well, Dazzler. So Dazzler isn't really necessarily a popular character. I heard rumors about her being added to the Marvel Universe. I don't know how true that is. I don't think it's very true at all, to be honest. But she exists, and she's there, and she has history with other characters. So I thought I would put this in here, especially for the kind of person who likes to read shorter comic series rather than longer series. This is for you. It is literally just one issue, 2010. It's got really pretty art, so I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Next up, we all recognize this character, and we might actually recognize this title from one of the previous recap videos I just put out. Go check it out if you haven't already, or if you have, leave a comment below your top squad. So number 14 is Miles Morales Spider-Man Volume 1. So this is published by Marvel Comics, and it's written by Brian Michael Bendis, I believe it's pronounced, and it's art by Sarah Pichelli, and it's basically a Miles Morales solo series. So it's not where he was introduced. He was introduced in Ultimate Spider-Man, I believe, but I would have to check during a Spider-Verse event. But this is his first series all about him as Spider-Man. So if you're a love of the character, if you love Spider-Man versions, if you've really been fascinated by the Spider-Verse animated movies, especially the second one that just came out, go check out our boy's solo series, his main series, and let me know what you think about it in the comments. And last but not least, the character who I've never met anyone say they dislike, Nightwing, specifically the 2016 series. So this was published by DC Comics. It's written by Tim Seeley, so we know it's good. And the art is by Javi Fernandez. I hope I pronounced that right. It started July 23rd, 2016, and it's basically about Nightwing. I don't want to spoil it. I still have more to read, so I'm probably just going to leave it at that because need I say more? It's Nightwing. Who doesn't love Nightwing? We all love Nightwing. He's a great character. He's very powerful. He's beaten Batman on occasion. He's good looking. So I highly recommend checking this out if you're a fan of him or you're just looking for other DC storylines to read. And he has other ongoing series as well, but the 2016 one is just the one that I recently picked up on and picked up on a while ago as well. I just kind of took a break from reading. So I wanted to throw this in here as the last one. And please let me know if you want more recommendations or if you have your own recommendations in the comments. I would love to make a video about those, whether it be a recommendation video like this one or a recap video or something else. Let me know. I would love to see what you have on your mind and on your reading list. And with that being said, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for listening and enjoy my next video.